Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome to Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being in here. Look, man, the college football playoff starts today. Well, technically tonight. I'm really looking forward to the games this weekend. So that's what we're going to talk about today, picking the games. Look, I know it doesn't have anything right now to do with the Big 12. I understand that. But it doesn't mean it can't. You know, just because Big 12 teams aren't playing, it doesn't mean that there's not something down the line that could mean something for the Big 12. Somebody wins, you don't think they should win. Somebody gets blown out in one of these games that maybe we don't think should be in there. Maybe the committee starts looking at that. Talking about strength of schedule, the committee seemed to look at strength of schedule for certain teams and not others. It's just a lot right now going on with this thing. But look, I love football. I really love college football, and it's still going on, and I feel like it's something that we still need to talk about. So let's dig into this. But before we do, again, remember to like, follow, subscribe, keep leaving those comments and those topic suggestions in the comment section, and always hit the notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders material and content comes out. So let's get into this. So first things first, tonight, Indiana goes to South Bend, takes on Notre Dame. Look, I'm from Indiana. It is, well, just across the river. I'm from Indiana, but I technically say I'm from Louisville because it's just across the river. Indiana's a basketball state, always has been, always will be. Never thought I'd see the day that Indiana University would have a football team in the college football playoff. I never thought that was going to be possible. Never, ever, ever. And here they are. They're a 6.5 road underdog. I'm going to tell you right now, Indiana's going to win the football game. I like Indiana in this football game. Some people are like, well, it's going to be snowing and Indiana's not going to be able to throw the ball. Indiana played a game in the snow and threw for 1,000,000 yards in that football game. That's not going to affect what they're going to do. I think they're more athletic than Notre Dame. I don't think they're quite as physical, but what they do on offense and defense, I think, is going to confuse. Their scheme, to me, is better than what Notre Dame's is. I like Indiana in this football game. I like Indiana to go to South Bend and upset them. Now, what that's going to mean is all the naysayers, and I was one of those naysayers about Indiana saying they had no business being in there based on their schedule. That's basically going to shut me and all those people up because they went and won a game. Technically, yeah, but again, my whole thought on that is Notre Dame really any good? I mean, how good are we trying to say Notre Dame is? I never thought Notre Dame was very good all year. People tried to give them credit for beating Texas A&M first game of the year, and I kept saying, is A&M any good? Turns out they weren't that good. And so, yes, me picking Indiana makes me, well, you're a hypocrite. No, I'm not a hypocrite. It just means I think Indiana is going to beat Notre Dame because I don't think Notre Dame's that good. Never have. I just don't think they're that good of a football team. I don't think their quarterback throws it well enough. I think they rely on him to run the football too much. But I don't think Notre Dame's that good of a football team. So I am picking Indiana early to upset and to basically, I mean, you can say it's going to rock the college football playoff, but I think smart money, like I said, Notre Dame 6.5, it's not like they both don't play in cold weather. I mean, it gets plenty cold, and I mean, it's only a couple hours apart. So we're not talking about going from the south to the north or anything like that. I don't. The weather won't be a factor. But if it is a factor, it'll be a factor for both teams equally. I mean, they're from cold weather environments. So, but give me Indiana. Next up, man, SMU going to Penn State. Now, I was one of the people, and you guys let me know, because I was one of the people that thought the Big 12 made a mistake in not inviting SMU. Yes, I know SMU fans are smug. Yes, I know they're arrogant. But I thought having SMU, look, I'm not going to say who I think they're a better fit in this conference, but I do think SMU is a better fit than a few teams in this conference. And I thought they should have been invited. I thought the Big 12 missed the boat. I thought we missed the boat here. But neither here nor there, especially when SMU didn't take any money from the ACC. They just said, hey, for 7 years, we won't take any money. We don't need any of the money that comes from television rights. We don't need any of that. I'm like, well, it's a no-brainer at that point, but apparently it wasn't. Neither here nor there. SMU going to Penn State. Now, look, you guys know me. I've talked about it before. I'm not a big believer in James Franklin. I never have. And until he proves me otherwise, I'm not going to be. But I do think that Penn State has a better team. Now, the one thing that I mentioned is the weather. And I said that in Indiana going to Notre Dame, it's not going to be a factor because, I mean, the weather's pretty much the same in South Bend than it is in Bloomington. So the weather won't be a factor there. Going from Dallas, Texas, up to State College, Pennsylvania, that's a little different. The weather is going to be a factor in this football game. Now, how big of a factor? I don't know. But I do know that SMU hasn't played in a game, maybe ever, that's going to be this cold, okay? And I just believe it's going to be a factor. I 100% do. Also think that Penn State is better than SMU. I'm not a believer in James Franklin in big games, but with the weather being the way that it is, that to me is going to be a big factor in this football game. Now, can SMU overcome it? Because I think they're more athletic than Penn State. Yes. But the physicality, I think that goes to Penn State. And when it's physicality and you're dealing with weather, I'm going to lean towards Penn State in this football game. I don't like it, Penn State, but I think I'm going to take Penn State. I don't even know if SMU covers. It's crazy. 8.5. I'm like, 8.5? I don't know. But, yeah, I think Penn State may get out on them a little bit here. I think they may just do that. Now, next game that we're going to talk about, Tennessee going to Ohio State. Again, weather a factor. Does not get near as cold in Knoxville as what it's going to be in Columbus, Ohio. Ryan Day. I mean, the rumor is that he's coaching for his job. Whether he is or not, I don't know. This is -7. Ohio State favored by 7 at home. Look, there's some people that say Ohio State has the best roster in the country. I would tend to agree. But where the difference comes in and where Ohio State doesn't have the best is at quarterback. Look, I know Kansas State fans may get mad at me because I didn't think Will Howard was that great when he was at Kansas State. I don't think he's that great now. That's just my personal feelings. I mean, he'll get drafted by somebody in the NFL, but this is not some superstar NFL guy. And they got rid of Kyle McCord last year. I would say those same Ohio State fans would say, yeah, maybe we should have kept him another year. I don't know. This is not a Will Howard bash session. Bottom line is, I like Ohio State to win this football game, though. I think their talent is better than what Tennessee's is. Now, Tennessee's physical. So, again, physicality, but weather. Again, I know I keep mentioning that, but it's a real thing. You know, it doesn't get that cold in Knoxville compared to Columbus. I'm not saying it doesn't get cold, but weather's going to be a factor again in this football game. And I like Ohio State. I like their roster. Look, if Ryan Day's really that desperate, then I think his team's going to feel that and they're going to come out and play a really good football game for him and go win the game. That's kind of what my thinking is. Tennessee plays real good defense, though. And as you guys know, defense always travels. So even though their offense hasn't been the Tennessee offense that we've seen over the years, I believe that their defense is going to go up there and make a big showing. I think Tennessee covers. I think this game is really, really close, but I think Ohio State actually comes out on top in this football game. So last but not least, Clemson and Texas. Look, Texas is favored by 12. You're going to be at home. This is one of the games that is actually going to sell out or get at least close to it. You know, the Ohio State and the Penn State game. I mean, they're talking about selling tickets at both of those games for $20. that you can go right this very second and go buy a ticket to that game for $20, which is insane. Especially a college football playoff game at home. But you got to remember, there's no kids aren't there. The semester's over. It's going to be super cold, in those places. Now, Notre Dame's a little different. Still going to be super cold, but the environment's just different. So I don't know. Either way, Clemson, I don't see how Clemson keeps this one close. I think Texas is that much better than Clemson. I really do. 12 seems like a big number, but I don't think it will be. I've seen Clemson a couple of times this year. I saw them against SMU, and they looked good early. Basically, for 2.5 quarters, or 3 quarters, they looked good. The fourth quarter, they looked awful. I saw them play against Louisville, and they got their heads beaten in at home. Just got physically whipped. Saw the same thing when they played against Georgia, first game of the year. Physically whipped in the second half. First half, they were in the game. Second half, dominated. The Louisville game, they got dominated from the opening kick. And I've also seen them a couple times, put it on some people. So I like Clemson. I just don't think they're going to match up physicality-wise. I think the Texas defense is stingy. I think it's going to shut down what Clemson's trying to do. And they're going to make them one-dimensional. And if you can make them one-dimensional and just throw the football, they'll get after them. I like Texas big in this football game. I don't think Clemson is going to put up much of a fight there. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I really like Texas. And I know Texas left and all that stuff, and I get it. And I should root against Texas every week. But I'm just being honest, like I always am. I think Texas runs away with this one. So it's going to set up some interesting matchups for the previous week's games, playoff games. But that's how I see it going down this week. Again, how does that have any implications on the Big 12? Like I said, maybe the committee, now this is very doubtful, but Indiana goes to Notre Dame and wins. Maybe the committee says, now look, we can't just give Notre Dame a free run into this college football playoff just because they lost one football game. We can't just give them a free rein into this. Let's look at their strength of schedule and who they played that was good, and let's take a look at it. Oh, they also lost at home to Northern Illinois. So I think maybe the committee will look at that. Now, as we know, this world's based on money, and this college football playoff is driven by money. Notre Dame brings a ton of eyeballs, not to mention people that are going to show up to the game, but also a ton of eyeballs watching. Whether you love Notre Dame or you hate them, you're going to watch them. And so it makes it tough to leave them out. But maybe that happens, or if Indiana gets the doors blown off of them, maybe they say, now hold on a second. We got to really do a deep dive into who these teams are playing. Just because they finished the season 11-1, who did they actually play? And that was always my argument with Indiana from the very beginning. They played the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, except for Ohio State. And when they played Ohio State, they lost by 3 touchdowns. That was my only beef. I'm like, look, they only played one decent team. And because Michigan's they're average at best. Average at best. Ohio State is a good football team, but they didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Penn State. Like, they didn't play those teams. Now, granted, the Big Ten didn't have a ton of good teams to begin with. I know everybody tried to act like they did, but they didn't. They didn't have all these teams that were just spectacular running around that football conference. They didn't have that. Needless to say, they're in it. So maybe the committee looks at it that way, and maybe that helps the Big 12 for down the road because – look, the Big 12, while teams lost a couple of games, look who they played. Maybe we need to give them a second slot. Maybe we've got to reward them for being a competitive conference and playing the competitive teams in that conference because they seem to want to do that in the SEC. But the problem, as we all know, is that the conference this year, the Big 12, got flipped upside down. And because it did, nobody wanted to give credit where credit was due. They just assumed that the conference wasn't any good because of the teams that won it. and that the teams that they thought were supposed to win it actually ended up being terrible. Not bad, terrible. And so because of that, perception is reality, and away we go. We get one bid, and they thought that the Mountain West Conference was a better conference than the Big 12, which is an absolute joke at every single level. I don't care what anybody says. Boise, the conference that they play in is not better than the Big 12. It's not even remotely close. Not even remotely close. So, but it is what it is. That's how the way I look at it. Like I said, could have some ramifications for the Big 12 moving forward. But I think the matchup Arizona State, I like the matchup either way. You know, I know Texas has a really good defense, but we'll see how physical it can be against a team that wants to run it down your throat with that type of running back. We'll see what happens, but also has a very capable quarterback. I think Sam Leavitt gets left out a lot when you talk about Arizona State and how capable he is, or not even capable. Capable is kind of a disrespectful word because it's almost a slight to him. How good Sam Leavitt is. That's a better word. How good he actually is, because he is very, very good. I like that matchup. If it's Clemson, it's Arizona State all day for me. I'm not even thinking about it. If it's Texas, I'll have my reservations, and we'll find out what happens. But either way, I like the matchup that Arizona State would have for either game, either team. So I appreciate you guys, man. Look, we're going to be back next week. We're going to still have a bunch of shows next week, so make sure you guys tune in. I know it's going to be Christmas next week and hectic and in and out, but look, if you guys aren't doing anything, please make sure you keep tuning in, man, because we're going to keep putting these shows out there. We're getting closer and closer to kicking off our basketball schedule. It's right around the corner, so make sure that you guys tune in. If you haven't tuned in because you're waiting for that, we're going to get there. I promise you we are going to get there. So, but until then, I will talk to you guys soon, man. Y'all gonna have a good one.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.